I'm a little ugly and my ears are protruding. Okay, let me hide them like that. Okay, you can see all my redness. This is my bare skin, guys. I know I have to cover it with makeup, but all right, let's get into it. Back from 2020 to 2022, I was working as a CNA. Well, right after high school, I started working as a CNA for a good while. So it was, I would say, from 2017 until 2022. In 2022, I stopped working as a CNA. 2023, kind of. So I would say it's like 6 years working as a CNA. So I have had my fair share of stories. Good, bad, horror stories, ghost stories, sad stories too. When you work in the medical field, you see everything, especially in the nursing homes. Where I worked at was in the nursing home. So grab your popcorn, grab your tea, grab your cookies, whatever, sit down. Bessie, we are gonna talk. And don't mind me, I'm having a lot of hay fever right now, so I sound funny. Okay, where was I? Like I was saying, I was a CNA and I worked in 4 different nursing homes from 2017 all the way into 2022. I need to set my timeline right. I'll name this COVID nightmare because it was in the time when COVID was going on. This particular story is from 2020, yeah, because COVID had just started. I had gotten hired recently, like let's say I had applied to this specific nursing home. I'm gonna call it nursing home D because that's the number 4 that I went to, or no, C, so nursing home C, right? It was one of the largest facilities I ever worked at. It was really, really big, like very big. So they had different wings, like literally like an airplane, like wings. Mainly working in the east wing. We would call it the east wing because it was an east, and then there's the west wing, and then there's also the secured unit, I guess, from I would say elderly with the more advanced mental conditions, or their conditions were just so advanced that they couldn't do really much anything. We would call it, or they would call it, like daycare for elderly. And sometimes I would be put there, but that was like later on when I had already more experience with the job and with the people there. I was working in the East Hall. That's where I was hired to be worked at, right? I remember around, I guess, February, COVID was going on. We had to wear masks, so it was really hard to breathe at that time. It was really tough, okay? And I remember that nobody wanted to really work, and people started quitting left and right. And so I felt like I was a little stressed because they had me. I'm working a lot of halls now, like in my second month of working there, and I was still kind of new, and I had to relearn people's names from the other halls and all that stuff. Nobody wanted to work, and nobody wanted to work while COVID was going on, and especially because the elderly folks there were they were catching COVID really easily, and they were like passing away. It was horrible. Okay, it was really horrible. I'll never forget. If you guys remember, it had snowed a lot, and I had to, one of those years, 2020 or 2021. I may be getting it confused, my storyline, but I'll tell you this for sure, it had snowed. So in the East Hall, they had decided at that time that they were going to make the East Hall the COVID Hall. So for the elderly that were exposed, or that they were already sick with COVID, they were going to put them in that East Hall, like to quarantine, right? And not get anybody else sick. So they were asking people to work in that hall, and nobody really wanted to. So they asked me, and I'm like, I'm scared. But I'm back at that time, okay? I was a little young and stupid. I was a little afraid, and my mom would tell me not to do that, not to take the job, because, we do have like a bunch. At that time, I still lived with my aunt and blah, blah, blah. So it was a lot of children in the house. So she would tell me not to work there. But, I kind of would feel, I'm an empath. I cry easily. I didn't want to leave the elderly there, so I would take on that job just a few times, probably like 2-3 times. Had to come to work and stay over the night. A few nurses did that, and some cooking staff also had to help clean the elderly because it was that bad. No, there was no staff at that time. So the point is that I had to stay that night, right? And then they told me that I could stay up to 3 days. I was like, yay, it's like a hotel. I was like excited, and I get to help. It's a win-win, right? I mean, the situation wasn't that great, but they kind of took care of me in a way. The facility, I mean. For the first day, I worked, and then I got off like at 6 p.m. and then I went to bed, or I went to my room, my assigned room. And the thing is that it was in that same COVID hall. I don't know how to explain it. It was it's a long haul, okay? So I was kind of there, but the point is that I remember in that empty room, someone had passed away. Someone had passed away, and I remember the elderly man, the elderly gentleman. I don't know, like I said, I'm not gonna mention any names, but he was in the facility right when I was hired, but passed away shortly after, like a week or two, I guess. And I had not met that gentleman, but I was getting ready for bed, and then I think I fell asleep, or this incident happened in the morning. I think it happened in the morning. So I was usually I would wake up if I was kind of off. I would wake up and I would just be on my phone, like laying like this on the bed and just on my phone, like facing the wall. So the wall would be like this, and I would be facing the wall, and the curtain, because there's curtains, would be behind me, and there's another bed beside me, right? And the window's like on this side. So I had placed the curtain like this so they wouldn't see me, just because I love my privacy, right? And there's no locks on the doors, on the bed, on the facility doors, right? On the room doors, I would just say. I was gonna get up, I heard the curtain, like, because they're very heavy fabric, and then you could hear the rings, kind of like the bathroom, the shower curtains. I'm bad at explaining. I remember it clearly. I heard someone yank the curtain back. I was like, okay. I'm like, what are they doing? They know someone's here. Usually they have a log of, you know, who's in what room at that time. And so I'm like, what the hell? But then I kind of like froze, because I'm like, what if there's nobody there? Like, okay, I'm a firm believer of ghosts and all that, so I was just thinking, what if it's someone that's not, you know, someone that's not alive? I froze. Okay, I was a little scared, so I kind of like slowly turned around over my shoulder. There was nobody. Curtain was yanked. I turned around and there was nobody. And so I quickly changed and I looked around the room, looked around the doors, because sometimes elderly sometimes will be wandering around. Sometimes they forget where they go, you know, usual nursing home stuff. So I thought, okay, maybe it was a wandering elderly. So I checked and there was nobody in the bathroom, nobody underneath the bed, nothing, right? That's the thing. The doors of the facility, the rooms, are really thick. So they're like, I don't know, I guess classroom doors, they're like really thick, or thicker than that. They're like really thick, and I would be able to hear it if someone opened or closed that door, because it slams itself. Okay, so when I got up, the door was shut tightly, it was closed. So I opened the door and I peeked in the hallway. Nobody was walking in the hallway at all. So I go to, I think I checked on the exit door, because there's like an exit door from, like, I think there was like 5 doors from mine. So there was an exit door around there and there was nobody. So I went to the nurse's station and I asked my nurse, I'm like, hey, did you come in my door? And she's like, I was over there attending to so and so and so. And I'm like, do you know anybody that came down this hall? And she's like, no, because she was monitoring actively who was coming in and out of this hall, because literally nobody could, only the COVID patients or whatever. So she was like, no, not really. She's like, I didn't see anybody go in there. And she's like, why? And I'm like, well, someone just yanked my curtain open. Yeah, I looked at her dead in the eye, like square in the eye, and I'm like, someone opened my curtain. And I thought it was you, but I didn't hear the door open. So she was like, and the thing is that this lady, this girl, she is skeptical when it comes to ghosts. Like, you'll tell her a story, she's like, oh, like interested, invested, but she knows, like, I don't think she's really, you know, believes in that. I don't know. But yeah, she was like, you know, raising her eyebrow, like, no, there was nobody passed through here. So yeah. Up to this day, I don't know what was it, who was it. That scared me a lot, but goosebumps. That's one story from COVID. Like I said, I am a firm believer in the supernatural and the paranormal, whatever you want to call it. I've had my fair share of horror stories outside of medical field, so, but I guess I can leave that for another day. I'll make a story time of my horror stories outside of work, I guess. But here's the next story. I have a friend that I went to high school with, and we're still friends up to this day, but just for her privacy reasons, I won't mention her name. I'll just call her Natalie, okay? We were working for a long time at that facility like I was mentioning. So we ended up working together a lot of times. So she was mainly in the night shift, so like from graveyard shift or however people say it. So she would work from sometimes 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Mainly 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Yeah. So, and when I started working, I was working evening, so 2 to 10. But then they later asked me to work 10 to 6, and then I was like, no, you know what? I'm just gonna do a double shift because I need the money. I was crazy back then. Yeah, so I would work from 6 p.m. all the way to 6 a.m. I mean, like I said, I needed the money and they needed someone too. So now Natalie, she mainly worked in the west side. I worked in the east side. So whenever it was night shifts, I would work with Natalie, okay? So we would be working on the west side, and sometimes it would be just me and her. Sometimes it would be just her and the nurse on her side with 40 plus patients. Yes, 40 plus patients and one CNA. So it was bad sometimes. We had little staff. I worked in West. Yes, I was working West with her. And the point is that I think it was chill. We had just completed our rounds. The nurse was either talking with the other nurse, or she was on the nurse station doing something. I don't know. Nurse stuff, right? So I remember that on the west side, this is the whole west side. The west side is this. This is the hall to go to the building out, and the east side is on this side, right, where you guys are at. So on this west side, there's also a side called Medicare. We would call it Medicare because it was a Medicare patient. And right beside that, there was like a physical therapy room, which was a little kind of big, kind of not. But that therapy room, there was double doors, like big double doors, but you could kind of still see in the bottom like a little crack. It was 3 in the morning, and at that time we were just sitting down snacking, looking at TikToks. But I remember that, I don't know what had Natalie said, that we both looked back to the physical therapy room, and I was like, what? I'm not sure if she mentioned the lights going on and off or something she had mentioned. It looks really weird. And I saw shadows. You know, when you see underneath the crack of the door and you see like people walking, like footsteps, and you see the shadows of people walking. That's exactly what I saw, but there was nobody in there. And I had checked again, there was nobody. Like I said, it's big double doors, and I think only you can go in there with the access code or like an ID badge. So I had asked the nurse, or Natalie, I think, is there anybody there? Is there a physical therapist right now? I think it's a little late, because usually they would leave earlier than the rest of the staff. Usually it's the physical therapist and the assistants that leave early. So I know for sure by 6 p.m. they're not there. That was just their schedule, right? So they told me, they're like, no, nobody is there. Why would they be there? It's like 3 in the morning. So yeah, I don't know what that was at that time, but it was a little creepy. I think my friend was the one that was seeing the lights flicker on and off, and then I was the one that saw the shadows underneath, and it was creepy. Okay, and so we were, like I said, we were sitting on the floor, and I was like, okay, you know what, how about we go back to the other side? I was scared. Okay, I am a big scary cat. The next one is the one that I'll always think about, because it's just engraved here. It's one of those stories I'll never ever forget, and it's creepy to this point. Ugh. So this time I was also working with Natalie. I have a lot of stories with her. I was also working with Natalie, and like I said, usually there would be barely any staff members at night on the graveyard shift. So I remember that this day when this happened, me and Natalie were in the nursing station. We were both in the nursing station talking, and then the nurse was also there with us, and it was just us two, the nurse on the west side and the other nurse on the east side. I think they had only one person too, but the girl on the other side had claimed that she was hearing things, I guess like on the roof or something, and I don't know, something was going on. And I remember that the nurse on this station was gonna go check it out, but then something like that along those lines was it that, and then the resident had claimed that they saw something on top of the building. Mind you, this was at 2 in the morning or 3, again, that scary time. So me and Natalie looked at each other like, oh, okay, it's a little creepy, but nothing's going on our side at least. So we're safe. That's what we thought. That's what we thought. Nurse goes running to the other side and talks, and like from here, like from our side, I can go like this from the nurse station and see directly all the way down to the east side. So I could see that our nurse was talking to the other nurse. So I was telling Natalie, what do you think it is? Do you think it's like a coyote or something? Because it was out in a lot of forest around that facility. So I would be scared getting the trash out because I could hear the coyotes, okay? It would terrify me. But I was asking her, what do you think it is? Do you think it's like a coyote, like an animal, or like a mountain lion, or what do you think it is? She's like, I don't know, girl. So right when we were talking about that, we also heard thumps, like, I don't know, like thumps, I guess, on the roof on top of the building. We heard as if it was like footsteps, I guess, or like an animal walking. But then it also sounded like human footsteps, kind of like when you're like, I know it sounds crazy because it's a big facility, but I know what I heard. I'm not crazy, okay? I'm not crazy. I know what I heard, and if you were to ask Natalie, she could also tell you that she also heard those same footsteps or those like thumps on the roof of the building. When that happened, we were looking around, and then suddenly an alarm went off, and we had to tell the patients to not worry. I don't know, it all seems, that night seemed very strange to me, because what set off the alarm? What caused the alarm to set off? And then the patients were freaking out, and then we had to like knock on their doors to let them know that everything was okay. But I was scared because you could also hear that thumping in the walls, like not the roof again, like the roof was still like doing that noise, but I'm talking about like the walls of the hallway. You could hear the thumping, and that scared me. Okay, I had to be strong, I had to be brave for the patients, because I know they could also hear it. They're like, what is that? So like I said, I'm not crazy. Some patients heard it, some didn't. But you know, the lights were a little freaky too, like the lights were flickering. Our nurse came back while we were checking on the patients, and then she said, have you guys seen anything outside? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, me and Natalie looked at each other like, what do you mean? What? Seen what? We had a specific patient like at around 2-3 in the morning outside to smoke, because he goes every 2 hours. He had time intervals that he would go outside and smoke, even if it meant in the morning. Now this patient also had trouble sleeping, so for therapy or something, I don't know. He was a good patient, like a good old man. And is that he was smoking outside, and then he told one of the nurses that he saw something or someone walking on top of the building. When he said that, we were like, you know, we thought maybe it's the medicine, maybe he's going through something. We were thinking all kinds of scenarios, but he even pointed at it, and he seemed like he was okay, like, you know, not crazy. I don't know what is it that he saw, but he said that he claimed that it was on top of the building. He couldn't tell if it was a human or an animal, and that freaked me out. Really freaked me out. I'm like, okay, you know what, let me get my stuff, I'm out of here. Just kidding, I still stayed. The other nurse called us on the station and was waving at her to come quickly. So I don't know what was going on that night, but she went rushing over there, and me and Natalie had to stay there with the patients again alone. Yeah, I had to turn off the air. It was very cold. I'm already cold, and it's really hot outside. Only after that happened, after the other nurse had called our nurse to go on the east side, one of them ended up calling 911. The cops actually ended up coming, and I wanted to be nosy. Like, I wanted to know, not just be nosy, but you know, for our safety, for my safety, for the resident safety. I wanted to know what was going on. But the nurse was like, from our side, was like, no, you girls stay right here. I'm gonna go with the cop and, you know, scan the perimeter and see if we find something. They checked on top of both cops checked on top of the building. Like, I guess, I don't know if they climbed or not, I don't know. But they checked around the perimeter. They even walked around the streets, because it's, like I said, it's a very big facility, and we have our own little ground. And they checked, and well, guess what? They couldn't find anything. They couldn't find anything. So I mean, they just ended up leaving us. But that night was very eerie for me. I will never forget it. It really scared the living out of me. It scared me so much because I wasn't sure what was going on. Like, are we being attacked? What? I don't know what's going on. I was really scared, honestly. But you know, I always have Jesus and God in my heart. I did go through a lot in that job. It mentally drained me. Now, another thing, whenever I would work with, we will call it something, not the security unit. Okay, it's a secured unit because it's double doors that are locked and only you can get in with your access code or whatever. Elderly there are very special and they can't really do much for themselves, and or they can like I guess they can walk around as if they were independent, but they're not all there. Like they really need a lot of help, a lot of care. So that's why we called it the secure unit. There's the unit with Alzheimer's and dementia and all that stuff. I remember every time I would work there at night, I would hate it because it was so creepy. Not the patients, but the place itself was so creepy. Like the unit was kind of big, and then the curtains, they will always have them open for some reason, and I could not close them. I would ask if I could have them closed at night at least, and they were like, no, you have to leave it like that. Okay, whatever. Yeah, it's totally not creepy. I will be put there in charge even though I'm not a nurse, but just to oversee the place and, you know, get them cleaned and all that. So I would be in that little station, and beside it there was like a door. There's like a little door, and at night it gets so dark. Now this next story, it happened to one of the girls that would work there at night. We'll just call her P. I remember something with the P. I remember that. Now this girl, if you think I'm a scary cat, I think she was very much afraid of pretty much ghosts and almost everything else. But she was pretty sweet and funny, but she would get freaked out easily. And I remember that she would, before me, because of her, I would work there. She was the one working in the security unit. And I remember that I heard this story from someone, from the nurse herself, I think. But she had said that the lady P suddenly was screaming and came out of the security unit. I guess when she threw her hands up in the air, she's like, she was screaming. Someone just growled at me or clawed. Like she felt like someone was clawing the floor. How do I explain it to you? Like, let's say, like this. Because they even put that person that showed me or that was telling the story even did that motion. Like you could hear like claws, like animal claws on the floor. And the lady, Miss P, she ended up screaming, running out of that unit, and she's like, someone is clawing, someone just growled at me like an animal. That place is full of elderly that I mean, they'll be like making noises or like little kids. Thinking, well, maybe it was one of the residents. She was like, no. Like she is very clean and on point with her patients, Mrs. P. Like she will keep them in bed, everybody, and manage them well. I think more than a lot of people there. And she will keep them in bed, and you know, everything good. And I think it was at 3 in the morning when that happened. So she had said that there was no way, like, I mean, we're right there. Like the station of the security unit is right there in front of everybody, where you can see if anybody gets out of their rooms. Like you can pretty much see from there, from that point of view. So she had said no, there was nobody. But I heard what I heard, and I'm not going back in there. She had said that. She was like so freaked out. She was so spooked, poor lady. So that's where I came in. And they would tell me to, you know, to fill in her spot for a while because she refused to go there. And at first I thought it was like, maybe she's a little lazy. Maybe she just doesn't want to go there because it's too much labor. And it is too much labor for the same reason that, you know, the condition of these patients. But no, I was totally wrong. It turned out that this lady had been spooked, and she had claimed that it was the devil or something like that was, you know, there to spook her or whatever. She's like, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke you. Ever since then, I kind of was a little spooked too. Like I was always cautious, and I would always have my eyes wide open like this the whole time, making sure that nobody was gonna harm me or my patients. So I was like a mama bear, I guess. I was like this. Yeah, I was always scared to go in there. Okay, I was really scared. But yeah, that's the security unit for you. You see of everything there. I remember that once I took care of this patient with Lou Gehrig's disease. He was a very sweet man, but that disease really almost took everything from him. And he couldn't even remember his own wife sometimes, because the wife would come in, you know, to check on him and everything. So, and the lady was very sweet and all, but this old man, I remember that he was very tall, like 6 foot tall, 6'1" probably. He was very tall. Okay, so when I had to handle him and I was by myself in that unit, I struggled a lot. So I always had to call someone for help, and they hated it. Some people can be so fake. Some people hated it whenever I would call them to help me, but I mean, I can't do this alone, and I'm not gonna risk having my license revoked at that time. I'm not gonna risk myself getting hurt or having my license revoked because of you don't want to help me. So always make sure, if you're a CNA, always make sure you call for help and don't be shy. Like, it's their job, and everybody has to help each other. Strong too. Like, he was very big boned and very strong. Like, he was not fat, but he was very tall. So I remember one day we were trying to like transfer him, but he got so angry, he punched me really hard, and so I had a huge bruise right here. It was a very big bruise. And I love these elderly, so I no resentment at all. But now that bruise did hurt, and I think I saw the bruise right after I got home, after my night shift. So it was a very big black bruise. Like, it was almost like black. It was so purple. It was so purple. So the next day when I went to the job, one of my favorite patients, well, I call him favorite because I could see that he much really like cared for me. And he would always get so happy, so adorable. And now he was kind of like, how would I say it? He was kind of paralyzed from his waist down. So he would be in a wheelchair always. So whenever he saw the bruise, he was like, who did that to you? Like, he was nonverbal, but he'd be like, like, he would be asking me, who did that to you? He was like so mad. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. It was an accident. Like, he could understand, but he still was mad. He's like, oh, like, when I catch you. I don't know how he's doing right now. But yeah, I would always witness a bunch of things there. Protect yourself, and always gotta ask for help in the medical field. If not, it could result in a very bad situation. I would pull night shifts sometimes, and let me tell you, one of those times, it would be like a 10-minute drive from that job to my house at that time. And I think I was very tired because I swore, like, as soon as I got off work. I think I had gotten off work one time like at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, around there. I was just really tired. I'm like, I really need to go early today. So they let me go, and I was driving, and I remember in the little town that I lived at, my hometown, there's a bunch of bridges out in the country, like a little further away from my town, and that's where I was staying at the time. And I remember that I swore I saw a half-dead body, kind of like wrapped in a black bag, and I saw it on the side of the road. And most of those nights, they were really tiring nights, very hard nights. I would kind of be falling asleep on my way to work, but it would take everything from me like not to fall asleep. So I would just blast music out loud or just sing, try to keep me awake. But that time, I think I was just had a lot on my mind, I guess. So I was kind of like awake, and I was driving, and I remember that I saw a half-dead body on the side of the road. And as soon as I got home, like I saw that, when I saw that on the side of the bridge, I saw that, and I started, like, I got freaked out. Okay, I was like, that cannot be it. That cannot be it. I maybe just be too tired. I just maybe need some sleep. So I feel awful, but like I just went home. I went home to my mom, and I woke her up because she was asleep. I woke her up, and I told her, Ma, I creo que vi algo. I told her, in Spanish, I think I saw something. And she's like, what is it? And she's like, I told her, I think I saw a dead body. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, but I'm not sure. Like, I was like so freaked out. I didn't know what to do. We went back to check, but there was nothing there. So I think I was really hallucinating. Very delirious, I think. I was so sleep deprived, okay? So I think never since that day, I think I stopped taking night shifts because I was like so afraid that was gonna happen again. Or what if I saw something and I crashed, or I accidentally, I don't know, many things. So I think from that day on, I vowed to not take night shifts again at any job in the future, because it's so dangerous if you don't properly take care of yourself. If you don't take naps, it can affect you badly. And if you're tired, like, imagine that. Okay, it's just dangerous. That freaked me out. And whenever I tell people, they laugh. They're like, you probably were on drugs, or you probably were drinking. Like, no, I was at work and I was tired. Okay, I was very tired. You guys like my makeup? That was it for today's story time. Should I make another horror story time outside of work? my personal experiences, I do have a lot. I think I have more of outside of work than at work, just because back at that time, like I said, right after I graduated, I was still living with my aunt. My family became homeless due to a family situation. So my aunt ended up taking us with her. So it was like a total of like 13 people in the house. But there was a lot of encounters with paranormal stuff from not just me, with all my sisters, brother, and my cousins. We all experienced something, at least something. If you're interested in more horror story times or whatever kind of story times, I have a lot of story times. I'm always yapping with my boyfriend. Poor man, he just wants to rest after work. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I'm not the best at storytelling. I'm not Stephanie Sue. I love that girl, by the way. But yeah, I tried my best, and I'll try my best because I love yapping and I love having a good story time with people. And thank you so much for watching me. I hope you have a good rest of your day, rest of the weekend, and I love you. Until next time.